and to keep other groups of people based on skin color from having power. And a whole lot of you believe that crap. How long are you going to believe that? How long is it going to be before you say to yourself, this is nonsense? I am this color because my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother was this color, and so, my friend, was yours. And so was mine. I am a descendant of those first black females. And so is every person in this room a descendant of those first black females. And we are all members of the same race. And in the Bible, where it talks about the family of man, it is talking about the fact that we all belong to the same family because we're all descendants of the first modern human beings that evolved on the face of the earth. Now you're going to get tired of hearing that, and I know it, and I don't care. Because I'm tired of hearing the other side, which is a lie. It's a flat-out lie. To believe that there are 4 or 5 different races on the earth, to believe that myth is just as ignorant as believing the Greek myth that said that God is, that the sun is a god in a golden chariot that goes across the sky every morning. That's not what the sun is. I've been there, I know. I was a waitress at the Last Supper. Why are you laughing about that? Don't I look like it? People, you need to realize that you've been lied to, your parents were lied to, your grandparents were lied to, and you are lying to your children if you allow them to believe that myth. Now, if you want young black boys to act as good as they can and to be all that they can be, you've got to stop letting them believe in the myth of white superiority. Except in my case. No, people, we've got to get over the myth of white superiority, because if you don't, we're all going to be in really big trouble in about 30 years. Because demographics in this country say that within 30 years, white people will have become a numerical minority in the United States of America. Yeah. Now, folks, what that means is that people of other color groups are going to be running this show. Now, you think about another 30 years of a country being run before he said, there's some good people on both sides of that riot. Somebody sure told him that. A man is judged by the company he keeps. Those of you who thought that every one of those fools must like Nazis and KKK members should have realized that a man is judged by the company he keeps. You have the right to judge people as being like the people they spend time with. And now some of you are thinking, well, he was a man of cliches. The difference is he lived by those cliches. He lived by those cliches. And he used to say every week, a fair thing is a pretty thing, and a right wrongs no man. Now, it might impoverish you, it might anger you, it might frustrate you, but if it's right, it won't wrong you. Now, people, you need to remember that. A fair thing is a pretty thing, and a right wrongs no man. I went into my classroom that morning. Stephen Armstrong, the first student in the room, came in and said, hey, Elliott, they shot that king last night. Why did they shoot that king? I said, we're going to talk about that, Stephen. So after we had done the things you have to do first thing in the morning, we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, with the words under God in it. How many of you know when the words under God were put in the pledge? Anybody? When? Don't raise your hand and then scratch your head. You'll get slivers under your fingernails. What? What? About 51 or 52, wasn't it? Dwight Eisenhower put the words under God into the pledge. Until then, people, we said the pledge without the words under God in it. That's why you can't trust anybody over the age of 55. Because we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag without the words under God in it, and it messed up our minds. You need to remember that. We said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and we all put our hands over our hearts on the left side, but we had one kid who came in and put her hand over her heart on the right side, and I said, put your hand on the left side. Put your hand on the left side. Why not? My heart's on the right side. It was. The doctor told me her heart's on the other side. Leave the kid alone. Her brain was somewhere that didn't belong to, but at least she was a very bright child. So then after we said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, we sang God Bless America. Now when you sing God Bless America, who are you talking to? God bless America. Who are you talking to? God. When you talk to God, what are you doing? Praying. What are you not supposed to do in school? I broke the law every morning. We sang God Bless America. And the kids loved it, and I loved it, and we sang it loudly. And we shouldn't have been doing it, because there were kids in that room who did not believe in God. How many of you know somebody who doesn't believe in God? How many of you know somebody who calls God Allah? How many of you think that person has the right to call God what they want to call God? How many of you think somebody has the right not to believe in God at all? How many of you think that God is a spirit and has neither color nor gender? Yeah, folks, God is a spirit and has neither color nor gender. Except she might be a black woman. Since the Bible says God made humans out of God's own image. A myth. Now, I'm not saying this because I want to help black folks. I'm saying this because I want to stay alive. And I want you to stay alive. And I want to close the prison system. I want to see black people and white people looking at young black and brown males and seeing them with a number across their chest. I want to put a stop to that. But we won't put a stop to that as long as we are convinced that there is such a thing as 4 or 5 different races and one of them is superior to the rest. It's a lie. I didn't know it was a lie. I thought there was something wrong. I knew that Martin Luther King Jr. was right. When I hate to talk about this because it makes me sick to my stomach. I was teaching 3rd grade in Riceville, Iowa. And our lesson plan for April 5th was to learn the Sioux Indian prayer that says, "O Great Spirit, keep me from ever judging a man until I've walked a mile in his moccasins." Martin Luther King Jr. had been one of our heroes of the month in February, along with George Washington, who owned slaves, bought and sold people for money, and Abraham Lincoln, who was our first black president. How many of you didn't know that? Abraham Lincoln was part black, part white, and part Cherokee Indian. Abraham Lincoln was our first black president. How many of you learned that in school? That's what I thought. How many of you think you should have learned that in school? How many of you think that's an important historic fact? Yeah, folks. So the next time somebody says, "Well, we've had our first black president," you say, "I'll bet you remember him, don't you?" You look about 200 years old, fool. People, it's time to get rid of the myth. It's time to get rid of the idea that the only people who did or contributed important things on this earth, and particularly in this country, were white males. Next time you think of a white male, think of W. No, don't think of W. Well, he's pretty bad. We used to do this, remember? Because this looks like a W. He and his wife would get up on the stage and they'd do this. And I did that at a college one day, and a kid said, "Miss Elliott, you better stop doing that." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because that means read between the lines." I never thought of it. So the next college I went to, I told them that, and they all just howled. And I told them that the next one I went to. Within 2 weeks, the Bushes had stopped doing this. So if there are any young Republicans in this group, stand so that we can salute you. You like that, don't you? You're crazy like me. People, you need to realize that in this country we elect people not on the basis of how well they can serve or how well they can govern, but how much money they've got to get there. The only color that really matters in this country is the color of money, green. And it's time to realize that. But Martin Luther King Jr. had been one of our heroes of the month. For me, Martin Luther King Jr. stood for hope. And for me, the word hope is an acronym for holding on to positive energy. Because that's what Martin Luther King Jr. did. And we were going to study him, and we had studied him. And I went to my house on April 4th. After school, I had the teepee under my arm that my previous year's third graders had made. We were going to put it up in my classroom the next day. We were going to paint it with Indian symbols chosen by white folks. We were going to sing Indian songs written by white folks. We were going to read Indian poetry written by white folks. By the shores of Gitche Gumee, by the shining big sea waters. How many of you remember that poem? How many of you never heard of it before in your life? That's what I thought. How many of you have never heard the poem Hiawatha? Oh my God. And you go to school? No, you don't. You go to a place where you are entertained all day, or where you are babysat with all day, because we don't have time to educate you. So we just let you sit there and teachers take the money and you don't learn what you should have. You'd ought to thank you very much. You're welcome. Now, don't just thank me, give me money. I'm not sure. He says the check hasn't been written yet, and he says I have to wait until the powers that be decide to pay me. Oh, people, how many of you think it could be a while?